One second, real quick. I'm not sure this is working. Daylo, come here, hurry up. Daylo, come here. Is this working right?
What you mean? We're supposed to be working about it.
Okay, never mind. I see it. Never mind. All right, I'm ready.
Ready?
Yeah.
What made you? You got me, son?
Good.
What made you want to do this podcast?
Well, I mean, just sitting around with you, we've been through this over the years where I really care for people. You know what I'm saying? So I wanted to express myself in ways where, like I say all the time, people are scared to. You know what I mean? Like we need to heal as a community. We need to heal as a family. We need to heal as a world, as a planet. And we can't do that until we realize what our problems are. We have to face them head on because it just continues to be drama after drama after drama. And you never know what someone's going through. So with that being said, I want people to actually see other things and hear other things so mentally, the youth can heal within the older generation. Because at this point, we losing too many battles within ourselves just by going in the house, shutting the door, acting like things ain't going on outside. And we got to, start being more important to other people.
What types of topics do you intend on covering on your podcast?
Just life in general. Things that make you happy, things that make you smile, things that make you think politically. What can you contribute to the world?
What do you want people to take away?
I apologize for that.
What, like the people that are tuning in, to see your podcast, what do you want folks to take away from your show?
Life. That's it. Just live. Just live. If you learn what to think, you can control what you go through. That's it.
And do you feel, and how do you feel about sharing your own personal story to so many people? It's not just friends and family, but, anybody can pretty much tune in. How do you feel about that being personal and open to such a wide audience?
I know I'm somebody, so I'm not scared to show you who I am. I've been through a lot. I have a lot of stories I could just share personally, But I don't see where there's real value effort in trying to help someone live. I don't have an understanding of, just watching people suffer. Like, let's take a quick trip down to politics, right? The voting atmosphere right now should be derived to, the amount of money they're giving to foreign people. But you got homeless people. Real live homeless people that struggle with just everyday thinking, let alone living. They can't get stamps, but you giving someone that's been here 2 hours $5,000 a month. That politically that doesn't make sense to no one.
What was growing up like for you in Bell Super?
Oh man, I loved it. It was crazy, but back then, we could come out sad. We was a community. It would be 1,000 people. We cared for each other. The older folks wouldn't let us do certain things. We couldn't, hang around them. Even when we was doing some of the things they was doing, they still didn't let us indulge in what they had going on. So out of that, we learned value, respect, boundaries, not just within the home, but in the community. you know, and we got to figure out how to bring those boundaries back to the community.
How did the drug epidemic of the late 80s, early 90s, the crack epidemic, how did it affect you and your life?
Shit, I done been to jail for it. You know, I done seen people overdose. You know, I had family members. We all got family members that are on drugs. So, you know, it, 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 that's a hard question because, you know, I see that, you know, people look for acceptance that way. And they find admiration along the way. They find that if you have a certain things, people value you. So it feeds the ego, it feeds the nature. So they don't know how to stop selling the drugs. And you know what I'm saying? I've been homeless before, so I mean I've never been on drugs like that. I mean I might have indulged here and there or whatever, you know what I'm saying? But I've never personally, you know, stepped outside of myself where I couldn't come back. You know, and a lot of people step in those places trying to escape whatever pain they have and get lost.
And how were you able to get out the game?
I always wanted to be different. Always. I just never really realized how to get there. I haven't been in jail for 30 years though, you know what I'm saying? I went to the penitentiary and I looked up, I seen some of, you know, the city's greatest killers when I was young, you know what I'm saying? And I'm in the penitentiary with these dudes, like, these is gangsters. I ain't trying to be like them. That's a whole life there. You know what I'm saying? I can't imagine, you know, me being behind a cell for the rest of my life. I could never fathom that. Cause I didn't like jail when I went, so I made sure I never went back.
Now your profession, you're a truck driver, you have a CDL?
Yes.
And you started off in the streets, you served some time, you turned your life around. And what was that like for you when, you know, whenever you did leave the streets and you started driving trucks? Like, some of the things that you noticed just about, you know, about how you felt?
I was the aspect of life, man. It was beautiful. You know, riding up the road, looking at other things, you know what I'm saying? It gave me a sense of self-worth, peace every day, just getting behind that wheel. I didn't have to answer to nobody, you know what I mean? I think that was one of my greatest, you know, accomplishments. You know, I got a bunch of them, but you know what I'm saying? I think at that point, I needed that in my life because it not only gave myself more structure, but it helped me build a better foundation around those around me. You know what I'm saying?
I want to ask you a personal question. How did you find out that you had cancer?
It took months actually. Wow. Okay. I remember walking to the store one day and just out of nowhere I felt a pop in my hip. So I started walking with a limp. And I thought it wasn't nothing, you know, you go through sciatic nerve issues. So I just downplayed it at first, you know. Then I let it go on for a couple months and I realized something wasn't right. I took a trip out of town and I came back and I got, like a week later, after I came back, I got to where I couldn't breathe. So I went into the hospital. They diagnosed me with, you know, sciatic nerve issues, sent me home. 2 weeks later, I got to where I couldn't breathe again, so I went to Presby. When I went into Presby, I couldn't breathe, but I told them, you know, it's got to be more than just a sciatic nerve issue because I can't breathe, you know. And y'all sent me home the last time, so I want you to do a full body check. They ended up giving me all the bells and whistles, and they found I had a tumor growing on my spine. and one in my hip, which was causing me to limp. The one inside my hip, they said was the size of a tennis ball, but the one on my spine, it's like it's a severely significant, you know what I mean, tumor. However, when I went to the hospital, they let me out. I went home. Within a couple of hours, I went right back to the hospital. I couldn't walk. Once I got to the hospital, they put me on an airsoft bed. After giving me an x-ray, I knew when they put me on the airsoft bed, it wasn't good. You know what I'm saying? But I laid there, you know, wondering what was next for my life. Like, I was really scared. I didn't really know how to feel anything, but I knew this was a game changer. You know what I mean? So they came back and told me that the tumor itself had ate through one of the vital ligaments in my spine. That's why I couldn't walk. And since I had just was able to walk, you know, within hours, they could help me by putting pins and rods in my spinal area, you know. So from the top of my spine to like quarter down between my shoulder blades, I got pins and rods. So I had to learn to walk all over because that was different.
And were you able to drive trucks afterwards?
I was able to work for a couple months. It's weird how it happened. I was on my way home from work and got into a car accident. My car got totaled. I got hit from behind, but I instantly went through sharp back pain, lower back pain. I instantly went through it. So when I goes back to the hospital, because I got the pins and rods, I got to make sure nothing was damaged. You know what I mean? So when I went back to the hospital, they found that the cancer had turned into osteoporosis. So that's making my spine have compound fractures, you know. Basically it's sinking in on itself, you know what I'm saying? So where I was 6 foot, I'm 5'6" now, you know.
And how did you tell your children, and how did your children respond to that news?
Well, they definitely individuals, you know. One was there, so she dealt with it head on. You know, my baby girl, my youngest, I'm 2 years removed. I'm just learning how she feels about it. You know what I'm saying? I still haven't got that understanding of what she thinks, but I've seen some emotion somewhere. You know. I think the situation has made my son rethink some of the things he's been doing. You know, he's coming around that corner, you know. I'm proud of him, I must say that, you know. They all love and care for their dad very much, you know.
Was it difficult for you to tell your children that?
No. It is what it is at the end of the day. That's the way I see things.
What are some of the day-to-day challenges that you go through that people who think they know you might not know? Like, you know, what does Darnell deal with on a day-to-day basis because of his diagnosis?
Mainly mental anguish within myself.
I would never guess that part.
I mean, the possibility of death looming. The possibility of those that you love crying. The circumstances of life changing without you even understanding it. Just the one day you feel this way, the next day you can't cope. It's like a plane that's waiting to crash. It just ain't died out yet. You know what I'm saying? it's hard to find exact words for all the emotion that's there because it changes. Like, I mean, I do have happy moments. I'm not always sad or something. I'm not always in my bag and feelings, but at this point, it's just the things are getting worse. The osteoporosis gives me, you know how your muscle throbs? Well, imagine that happening inside your bones and your back. You know what I mean? Sometimes, some days it can be debilitating. You can't move, you can't function. And, you know, the last thing I want anybody to do is to see me suffer because mentally I'm not a weak person. So I'm not going to beat myself up because of it. I mean, I might cry, I might go through it, which I did yesterday. And I wasn't afraid to explain why I was willing to do it because I want people to understand that love has no boundaries. You know, love has no direction unless you give it. And what the world needs is someone to be able to say, this is what I'm going through. I need your help. That's it. It's not a guessing game on how you change the outcome of the community. It's just caring. And I know that people look for dramatic situations. So I want to give you a little bit. I want to give you something honest and tasteful. I don't want to just give you something to talk about. I want to give you something you can go outside and experience yourself.
Mhm. What is the prognosis that the doctors are saying?
Right now, I look good for me. I think, you know, I'm picking my weight up. Where I was damn near 300 pounds, I went down to 135. So that's a drastic change. I'm back up to 180 right now. You know, I feel good. I'm moving around a lot better, a lot faster. I still go through the aches and pains, but just me looking, resembling myself again even makes me feel good. You know what I'm saying? Gives me a bigger sense of confidence instead of being all shriveled up and hurt.
Right, right. Is there anything that you would like, you know, the people who are tuning into this podcast, is there anything that you would want them to know just about, and I'm going to, you know, switch gears after this, but I know that a part of healing for you is sharing and talking about this condition. And you had, you know, posted something on Facebook, I think last week, about other people who, you know, may be dealing with cancer or, you know, folks and their family who are dealing with. And I was telling you that, you know, recently we found out that my dad has cancer.
Right.
And it's a form of cancer that comes from working. You know, back in the day, they didn't have a lot of protective equipment. And my dad was working, you know, a young man was working around a lot of asbestos. And, you know, he had to breathe asbestos, you know, basically to feed us. That's what he had to do. And, you know, I haven't really told too many people about that outside of my immediate family. When you posed that question, you know, it kind of like, you know, kind of opened me up. It made me kind of, you know, think about some things and maybe talk through some things. I had talked to Chris. Chris asked me why I didn't tell him about my dad. And, you know, why don't we open up? And my question to you is, like, why do you feel like that as men that we don't talk about, you know, the things that we're going through? Why do you think that we suffer in silence?
Fear. Plain and simple. Fear. Fear on how people won't judge me. That's it.
And how do you overcome that? How did you overcome that?
I don't have fears. I outgrew them when I was a kid. I went through so much anguish as a child. I went through so much damage and abuse as a young person. Why not? I mean, I've been shot. Like, you know, it ain't nothing else to fear. You know, I don't see. Fear is the root to everything, and love is the beginning of life.
Hey, keep that down, please. Me and you, man, I guess we've been knowing each other for about 40 years. We grew up in this neighborhood, and we're like a family. everybody in this neighborhood, is a family. And we just lost a good brother yesterday.
My friend, like, yeah.
And, it's just like we had planned in this podcast, this kickoff, for a little while now. And that just happened. It's like, we didn't plan on, like, man, this life just comes at you. And so wondering if you wanted to share any of your feelings or any of your thoughts on the Dana Burke situation.
It's got to stop. I'm tired, like, you know. We from the hood, we all close, but that was one of my closer friends. I watch a lot of his kids grow up.
Mm-hmm.
So even now, I'm beginning to get emotional when I get to viewing them crying over their father. You understand what I'm saying? His mom, like, see, when you go to these places, we don't pay attention to that pain. We need to tap into that. So let's go. When you go to these funerals, the first thing you notice is the families over here. They sit up front. The one thing we don't do is go pay attention to that pain, because a mother that realizes her child ain't coming home has a voice that can't be heard. It's that rips through me every time I see it, because if you have a fear, that should be it. Your kid's not making it back to you for whatever purpose. I once was a person that created the destruction. I can no longer sit by idly. It's not in my, we done been out here marching and everything. I don't want to bury my friend. I don't want to bury no more of my friends. Not in that capacity. If we're going to go, let's go, because we got situations like I got. We at that age where that should be our norm. But mental health bothers us all to some extent. And we have to be mindful on what we create amongst other people. Because what you create affects them. So if you create that bad energy around them, it becomes a mirror. They are of you. It reflects back. And the community just keeps going back and forth with its reflection, because it's the same everywhere. It's not limited to Bell Silvers like that in the streets of West Virginia. Niggas is trying to be niggas, man. Like, when we gonna go back to being men? When we gonna go back to being leaders? When we gonna say that? Because when you stand up as a man, you stand up with the understanding that I'm gonna get something accomplished. A man does what he sets out to do. If you can't do that, then you shouldn't say that you are one until you figure that out. So as a man, I have the power to look back and say to these young dudes, Lord, because that's when I was a kid, that's all I wanted. Just, Lord, show me, because I want to see it. You understand what I'm saying? Because what they see, the things that people were showing them is guns, drugs, and sex. We're not showing them how we get up every day like we do.
Mm-hmm.
We go to work like we do and come home and benefit quietly.
So the problem that we're having one of the main problems in the community is guns. It is violence.
Right.
All this killing. What role, if any, do you think that the music and entertainment industry have in that?
Influence. Vibrational influence. The things, everything, your body and mind is like a laptop. Everything that you play in it will always be there. It's a downloadable system. You downloading these things, not just into you, but your generation and its bloodline. So, you want to change the things. You speak of peace, you bring about peace, you show peace, you walk and talk with peace, You don't just keep feeding it the negative things with the negative energy.
Mm-hmm. Do you think that the people that are pushing this negative energy through music, do you think that they have any liability in this or any responsibility in the crisis that we're having in the black community?
No, you can't blame somebody for what you do to you. You chose to turn on the music. They just provide it. You choose to put up with the foods that causes cancer. They just provide it. I don't really know after accepting things, whose fault is it? Once you can't heal till you learn to accept. This is my part of it. This is my part of it, excuse me. And this is my wrong. Once you realize what your wrong is, then you can set it right.
Mm-hmm. You kind of made me just think about something there. Do you feel like some of the things that you've eaten led to your diagnosis? And then what adjustments have you made in your diet?
Well, first I made a lot of adjustments before I even found out I had cancer. I wasn't eating meat and things like that. But once I found out I had cancer, I quit eating sugar, smoking, drinking, all that other stuff. So that it wouldn't feed the cancer. And parts of the, like the tumor I had in my hip, it did heal. I went on the CMOS binge real hard. I went, was drinking teas for a whole year, herbalist. So I figured that out, and I did the best I could with that till I could,
Mm-hmm. As far as like what we eat and the type of the diets, it's like, yeah, we do, have a choice to a certain degree, but it's like, this, if you spend $50 at Walmart, your money's not going to go as far as if you spend $50 at Whole Foods. So I think, and even like the amount, like the dollar menus at the fast food restaurants, they're popular because you can get, basically you can get full for like $3. And it seems like it's a challenge for us to eat healthy. Whenever you did make those adjustments, did you see it as a challenge? And if so, how did you overcome those challenges?
No. Anything I want to quit, I just stop.
Do you cook food at home?
Of course.
And so, like, what type of things do you cook now?
Well, right now I'm eating a little bit of everything. I'm not really, let me get out a little context. You know what I'm saying? Because I can't just make it seem like, I just went left. But when I went through that weight loss situation, everything that I was going through, I desperately had to figure out something that was going to help me, gain some weight. So going back to the trash is what's actually putting weight on, I hate to say it, but I can't afford not to, my body went from 275 to 135 in 6 months.
Wow.
So I knew I couldn't maintain it no more, because if I lose a little more weight, I might die. Because, your body's not going to keep letting you go through that. You know what I'm saying? At some point, it's stressed out. It's going to give up. You know what I'm saying? So I went back to eating unhealthy foods. I'm not, happy to say it. Like, I'm kind of hard on myself about it, right? Because I know, like, dude, you got cancer. You know this, you know that. But then people be like, well, why did you stop? All you need is this and all you need is that. Matter of fact, let me address that issue real quick, too, because I see nowadays everybody's getting on these Facebook apps and these internet platforms, and everybody knows the answer and the cure. No one's going through it, but everybody has the cure. Here's a factor. Sometimes you put your body through too much damage, and you got to reap what you sow. Period.
Wow.
You know what I'm saying? What I learned being an herbalist, or, having my own little tea company, is that these things, they will work if your body's in the position it needs to be. When you are already fighting things, it's a fight. Somebody's going to get knocked out. It just might be you. You know what I'm saying?
I want to ask you two more things. Donald Trump.
Okay. Politics, my guy. What's up?
How do you feel about him? And do you think he's a better option than Kamala Harris?
Wow. People ain't gonna like this one. Cause I'm gonna make it seem like I'm a Trump supporter, but I'm gonna just give you reality. I'm not gonna give you facts. It's obvious it's an important election, so I'm gonna contradict myself openly, right? Because I'm gonna tell you, Trump is your guy. If you're paying attention, they trying to kill him for a reason. Just take out the politics, and you won't be biased to a man damn near losing his life. Because reality is what it is. He damn near somebody did lose their life. So that shows that there's something they're trying to keep him from achieving.
Interesting way of looking at it.
I mean, it's the only way to look at it. It's not an interesting way. It's the truth. When you sit down and you realize that a firefighter, who is the most important person at that rally, lost his life, you owe it to the firefighters, the police, the EMTs and all that to show some consideration for it all. So why is it that just for someone to run the country, this man had to lose his life? That's the point. Why are you trying to keep this man down? So the only thing I could give you is the mistake in it all.
So who you going with? Harris?
No one. I don't vote. That's the contradiction. I don't vote. I don't vote because I once was Islamic in nature. So I use that perspective Islam gives you on how they pick imams to say that's how you should pick your leaders of the world. They're humanitarians, they're humble, they're servants of the people. When you get people that just put on a suit and collect a check, that's what you're going to get. People that collect a check. And the corporation is an entity, it feeds itself. Here's the funny part, right? Because this is why I say Trump's really your guy. But the people that tried to kill him, he do business with. So, and if you think about it, you may be screwed either way.
And what can we expect moving forward in the future with this show? I think that just personally, I think that you have the type of spirit where you're easy to talk to. I think, you're very honest, you're genuine, and you're not afraid to be vulnerable.
No, I'm not.
Which is kind of a rare thing. I mean, I can't boast that.
Well, I don't look at it like that. I'm not vulnerable. I'm just choosing what I can allow you to see.
Explain that.
My vulnerability is done in private. That's everybody's. Some people don't know how to control it in public. So that's where it becomes a problem. I want to sit down and show you where I'm vulnerable at, but it's well thought out. It's not just blatant in your face with ignorance. It's not, attention seeking or me grabbing, should I say. The internet is the new drug.
So why don't you tell your audience what they can expect to see and hear in the future, and how often you're going to be coming back to them?
Well, I hope to be able to at least start and do it once a week. I want to be able to have a conversation with a vast amount of people. I want to be able to take my life and the way I address the community to the world. I want to be able to show people how I deal with the youth, and I want them to be able to sit down and learn politics and, just life situations through this show. I want to be able to sit down with some psychologist that can answer some questions that I may have about community, involvement and gun violence like this, to where I want to sit down and be able to maybe one day talk to the mayor of the city and ask him his reflection on what needs to be done and how things could be best utilized in the city of Pittsburgh to move the city forward. So not only, because we celebrate the Steelers being champions, but we ain't champions in our own house. So I don't really understand.
Mhm. So we can expect to see you next Sunday, 7 o'clock?
Yes, sir. And I just ask that you tolerate me because this is new. You know, I'm not really good in front of the camera, but I'm willing to open up and learn. So here we are.
I'm looking forward to it, man. I appreciate, you coming up and, allowing me to be a part of this. Diamond, I love you. I respect you.
I love you too. You
And,
know this, man.
I'm proud of you, and I admire your strength. You know, I really do. You're a brave dude. Just respect.
I thank you. I thank you for allowing us to sit down and change the narrative on Facebook. 'Cause this is something different, man. That's what I'm trying to embark on. You know, you got to show people. You can't tell them how to think. You got to teach them. You know, in today's generation, the cell phone is teaching them, not the interaction with people. We got to come back to that. So thank you, good brother. I love you to death. You know what I mean? I hope that the people watching this can say that they enjoyed it. I mean, I definitely will sit down with you, hopefully again in the future, and we can stick to one drawn out topic and figure out how we can move forward as people, you know?
This is a kick out. See you next week.
Yes, sir. I thank y'all for tuning in. I'm your host, Darnell Henderson. Holla back, baby. What do you think, Chris?
I think it was. I think it was insightful. It was, some topics I think, could have been, drawn out a little longer. Some could have been cut off a little shorter. But I think it was good overall. But that's what happens when you're on the live. It's like, it's live.
It's authentic. That's all I wanted, you know. I can't hide, you know what I'm saying, with what you see, yeah.
See what it says. Darnell Henderson was live.
Yeah, how many views you
I
get?
was on Facebook.
I don't know. I can't even see
You
it.
had. Okay, so the wide angle.
Man, I'm going to lay hands on Chris, man.
Yeah, but you had about 8 people on at one time. People were popping in, popping out.
That happens, yeah.
People popping in, popping out.
You're going to get most of your views. That's what I was saying.